actually describe it in technical terms without, they just talk about who the character was, what the last story was, or whatever. So if you go to Avatar and you say, I was wearing these glasses, it's kind of like an experience. Oh, you did something different. Oh, you didn't go to, I don't know, Epcot or something in Disney World, you went to the films and you saw something new, which I haven't seen yet in terms of technology. People, I think, get more excited by the fact they did something new. Like, today I was climbing on walls, or today I went diving somewhere. And they just feel like they tried something they haven't done before, and not just seen one more film. But sometimes I get the feeling some of these films are a bit like downloading a WAD file for a game, which is a fine illustration of how games have been packaged and separated between the actual technology of the games and just the artwork of the games, where you can just take the same thing, add a pack of graphics to it, or add some maps to it, and this is like a new game. Well, what is the game? Well, the game is a map. Okay, well,
yeah.
The game is really the same. It's just like you're being put in a different place with different graphics. Sometimes the same with films too.
It does make me wonder. I mean, I'm pleased you mentioned that, because it does make me wonder with a lot of the console titles now, these first-person shooters, that they all rely on the same, or a lot of them rely on the same engine. And maybe that's a reason why level designers aren't released for the console platforms, because if users could actually create their own work and own material and share it with other people, and effectively make a new game, then it would obviously mean less sales in respect of the software companies.
That's with time shifting and weapon shifting. For example, you take the same game, you could equip people with spears and bows and things like that. And then in the next game, you can have things like lasers and explosions and driving in cars. But it's really this: you just change the speed that things move around, and you change the destructions of things, all kinds of parameters in your program to create these new games. But the thing is, it's really hard to sell a game which doesn't reuse the fundamental, the heart or the core of the system. Things like how to do sprites and how to render things quickly, so you only work on the polygons that are visible. If you want to create something from scratch and to make a very innovative game to push in a different direction, you have to create the core yourself. It's not just about getting a bunch of people who know how to put together triangles and make it look quite good. Or you having these days, actually in my lab, we have a 3D camera, so you can actually scan people's faces and get the whole kind of to get the faces though it was a terrain of something, and it makes it very, very fast to scan objects or people's faces and kind of work the intensities once you scan, so you can actually get it very, very fast. You can get just people's 3D models of people very fast, and that's what they do now. That's what they can do very fast, just in films and in Hollywood too, working around the notion of 3D models of things, and then you move them around, which might be just a person sitting there with boxer shorts just in front of the screen, kind of moving characters around, which is cheaper than having very expensive actors, and maybe they do voiceovers and somebody just writes down, say this, say that, and just kind of put some famous voices, and they can put on the cast, like, Shrek, with, who's in Shrek? I know some celebrities who used to be on the thing, and they basically just had the text prepared, and they come in and they just watch the thing and speak to the microphone and do the voice. And you're supposed to think that this person who was just a 3D model is like this famous person that's part of the film.
Well, just to round off the whole, because we often say we don't cover gaming, and really that's not what either of us intended TechBytes show to be. But what I would say, if we're talking about innovation in gaming, I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of the titles on the console platforms are very much the same. One first-person shooter is the same as any other one, but you look at some of the free and open source titles that we've got now, and I've covered a lot of them on my website, and that's where the real innovation is. That's where you get these unique little puzzlers that you'd never actually considered trying before. When you do, you're hooked on them for hours, and this is where the real innovation is occurring. And I think that a lot of people dismiss the homebrew or independent developer as being a viable games creator, and it's far from the truth. I mean, there's so much decent material out there for people that just need a little bit of support from from users, because of course a lot of the motivation for many of these people is just having people use their software. It's not anything financial. It's just the satisfaction of knowing that people are enjoying their work is enough to keep them motivated on their projects. So, sorry.
I just want to say something very fast. It just occurred to me that the rise of the phones as a gaming platform, not just a PDA thing, that creates a market for people who make very simplistic games and also using the touchscreen. So all of a sudden, people actually touch their characters more and touch the mouse or move things around. And it also gives an opportunity for people to create a different type of games. You have Worms being returned back into, well, the mainstream of games as far as phones are concerned. This is a very old game, and it just relies on a whole different notion of what a character is and what you're doing and how you're shooting. You actually have time to shoot and to prepare and to accurately try to measure distances and all kinds of winds and things like that. And that changes the people's perception of what a game is. So hopefully with the low-spec hardware, the different interaction methods, maybe you have the opening now again for small gaming. Things like Angry Birds can be developed by a very small team, and they can make a lot of money and get lots of users without making some of those kind of Max Payne or GTA. They don't have to have these huge kind of studios. Now they call it a studio of games, like it used to be Sierra, I suppose. But there aren't many very successful games by just people working in couples or in groups of families or something like that, the way it used to be.
I think one of the other things that's been lost, and I think this might be a nice place to round off on the gaming thing, would be, a lot of the games these days, you load them up and they offer you this amazing world where you can do whatever you like. You can customize your character. You can make your complete your gaming experience completely unique to yourself for that particular game. But I think what they've missed is that a lot of people simply want a game that they can load up within seconds and play instantly. They don't want to spend 2 days designing a character and their hairstyle and what handbag they carry or whatever. They just want to play a game that's a bit of fun, and then they want to switch it off 5 minutes later and maybe come back to it again in an hour or half a day or whatever. And I think this is where the market has lost its way, certainly in respect of the larger companies, because there's a massive demand, as Android is the platform has shown, for just very simple, very straightforward, addictive games. Angry Birds is one. Worms is another. You could possibly argue that Angry Birds maybe took a bit of inspiration from Worms, and I'm sure there's about 1,001 titles before Worms that did exactly the same type of thing.
Yeah, the one with the tanks. What's it called? Scorched Earth. Do you remember? That's one of the inspirations. I used to love
I can remember something involving a castle and
tanks. It also generates a map for you, like 2 mountains or more. And then you have those tanks that have to shoot one another, and they have the nukes, and they have.
Oh yeah, that was right. Yes.
Yeah, and I think there is one of the original ones, and several which try to copy this. And I think for Linux there is a 3D version that back in 2001 I was trying to download. But back then you had to compile the thing. I had to get it from SourceForge and try to get it to work. But lots of clones of that game. Worms Worms goes back to the 90s, obviously, way back. But I really enjoyed. I actually had nightmares when I was a kid, because of Scorched Earth. That was probably like 6 or 7 or something like that. I couldn't sleep too well after one time. It's really funny. I think for about 3 hours. That's all that came to my head. And that's some of these effects of you playing games the entire day. And then that's all you go to sleep and that's still in your brain. Every time you close your eyes, that's all you have in your
Now,
head.
you can guarantee, Roy, now that you've said that, that's going to be quoted somewhere as being some sort of revelation, and there's going to be all sorts of insinuation made from that one comment about your dreams as a childhood. So I'm going to be looking forward to reading that over the next week when somebody wants to make some poor allegation about what you've just said. So I'll look at.
No, it's just to be very specific. What I remember is one night. It was this one night. Every time I would close my eyes or kind of think, would have these tanks shooting. I wouldn't be able to sleep too well. I'd just wake up. It wasn't a nightmare. It just wouldn't be. It happened to me later on when I was playing lots of Enemy Territory, the 3D games. So it would just, when you play these games many hours, you just get, every time you sleep or sometimes certain days, it just comes to your head, and just like you try to get your head on. I'm not the only person who had this kind of observation. I know other people have the same type of thing.